In this example, we're going to learn how to build a custom data type for a step. We'll build it and we'll use it in our custom step, and then we'll also use that in the designer to see how it renders. So let's go head over to Visual Studio, and we'll use the exact same project that we did before. So I'm going to create a new class here. So I'm going to say add class, and I'm going to call it this, let's say FW text box is my data type class. So I'm going to change this to, let's say we can change this to public, and we want to implement a certain interface to do this, just like we built a step. So I'm going to implement IFW data type, and you will see we get some help to implement this interface. And you can see we have one method called render that we need to implement. And we can also give some attributes here to name the data type. So if we don't give a name, it will use FW text box as the name of the data type. But if you want to change it, we can also give something like data type data, and then you'll see here we have one parameter we need to provide, and the data type name, and in this case I'll give FW text box. We can also give some other things like default value and other things like that, but we don't have to. In this case, let's go ahead and do that. And now all you have to do is implement this. So in this data type, we are going to be generating and rendering a text box. And instead of typing all the code, I'm just going to copy paste the code that we need. And I'll kind of walk you through this code. So I just need the render method. So I'm just going to grab the contents inside this method, and let me go ahead and put that inside here. So over here, as you can see, I'm setting a value, and if selected value was passed in, I'm using the selected value to be the value, and then I'm basically building an input box or a text box using HTML, and I'm building this little control and then returning the HTML back. So the code is pretty simple. And you can also build complex controls, to open up windows, to show drop-down lists, with JavaScript and all that stuff. And later we'll get into more complex examples on how to do that stuff. So let me go ahead and build that. So I'm going to go and say build solution, and everything looks good to me. Everything compiled, and all you have to do is now take the DLL. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the folder that this particular project is in, and then we can go to the bin directory and go to debug net7 and copy the DLL. And when you copy, make sure you copy the PDB file also. That will have a lot more debug info when you're debugging and things like that. So now I'm going to go to our fluoride directory. So let me go to c:/fluoride, and I'm going to paste the DLL over there. I already have this DLL, so I'm going to just overwrite it. And now if I go to my fluoride directory and data types, let me just reload the page. I'm going to go to utils and say auto detect, and you will see that it should pick up this new data type that I just created. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead and select that and say configure. They should automatically configure this data type. And if we go back to our data types UI, and if we search for it, FW text box, you can see the text box data type. And you can also click on this and you can see render, and it will show you what that looks like. Now, if we really want to use this data type, we need to go and use this in a step input. So in our previous example, we created a step. So let's go and change the steps, one of the inputs to use this particular data type. So I'm going to go to my steps, and let's go to FW10 category. And I'm just going to double click on this particular step, and I'm going to change this input, let's say value 1. I'm going to say update, and here I'm going to change it from string to FW, and I can search for it, FW text box, and say update, and done. So now if we go to process definitions and open our existing example definition, and if you look at this add two numbers, this value 1 text box is actually our custom data type that we just created. Okay, so it is that simple to create and configure a data type for any of your steps. And we also see many of our customers build really cool data types. Sometimes, the data types are very simple. Sometimes the data types might be launching another, pop-up, and that pop-up might have, a lot of different controls, dependencies between those controls, and JavaScript to manage the data within those controls. So all kinds of different data types can be built very simply by implementing our interface. Thank you for watching this. Hope you learn how to build a custom data type. Thank you.